All right, I think we can make a start. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first Product.NET community event that is organized this year. So unfortunately, we had to keep silence due to well-known reasons, but now we are back, and we've revised a little bit our content, how we are going to deliver our events. So our current plan is to have uh, two events in Russian and in English with the same topics in order to deliver the content to a wider audience, because now we're extremely distributed and we wanted to reach out everyone working from each of the locations. So you can choose to join our English event or Russian event, whatever works better for you. So what do we have for today? I think we have bunch of really interesting, really awesome news, really interesting updates for you today. And we're going to focus on actually three major topics. I think most of you should be aware that in May, Microsoft launched Microsoft Build conference, and it was full of different pretty interesting announcements. So we are going to stop a little bit here and talk about what actually is related to .NET World, what was shared during this conference. Then we also will talk about .NET toolset updates, and then we will stop and talk a little bit closer about multi-platform application user interface framework that was also released during the Build conference. So, okay, let's start from the first part and let's talk a little bit about Microsoft Build conference, and let's talk about things that may be really interesting for .NET developers. So I actually analyzed materials that were shared during this conference, and my personal opinion that this conference was not so rich on like extremely interesting, amazing news as it was previous years. But again, this is just my opinion. So maybe Microsoft is under revising their conferences. Maybe soon it will be like it will be changed somehow. I don't know why. So, but this year seems to me not as full of great news and great updates as previous years. But anyway, I think there are several topics that we can talk about, and that's what I'm going to share with you. So first of all, let's talk about artificial intelligence and what was released for AI topics from this build, and how AI now can make our developers' life easier. Then we will talk about Power Platform updates and updates in low-code, no-code environment. Of course, we will talk about Microsoft Azure updates, what is the most interesting news there. And we will talk about .NET topics that were shared during the build. Okay, so let's start from the AI part. I think like the most important updates related to AI part were made during the conversations about GitHub Copilot. So GitHub Copilot actually was launched maybe half of a year ago or so, but it wasn't available for a wider audience. So right now GitHub Copilot is available for almost everyone. So for example, you can request the access to GitHub Copilot today and get it like today or tomorrow. So now it's very easy. It's still not like generally available technology, but you can start adopting it for your projects. So what is the purpose of GitHub Copilot? So GitHub Copilot is not just another autocomplete. Like it's like really artificial intelligence. The purpose of it is to provide you not just autocompletions, but provide you like rich suggestions for like pieces of code. For example, you can put some kind of summary in your comment in your source code, and then GitHub Copilot will automatically suggest you the implementation of the algorithm that you are going to describe. Also, GitHub Copilot can do some boilerplate things, like, for example, it can generate stubs for you. It can help you a lot with testing. It can also suggest like different approaches for the same tasks. GitHub Copilot is powered by OpenAI. This is probably the most known company that is working in AI area nowadays. So it is really promising. It looks really promising. I had a chance to talk to people who used GitHub Copilot on production projects, and they provided like pretty warm feedbacks. Especially, they found it useful in such areas as tests generation and test implementation. It cannot still, of course, implement your business logic in a very accurate way, but I think it is a first step. So we can imagine that at some point, GitHub Copilot would be a tool that would be an artificial intelligence that developers will interact with in order to create the code. So developers maybe at some point will not be responsible for like creating a code by writing lines of code. They probably will provide just instructions for the artificial intelligence, and this AI will generate the code. That's probably the future. At least that's Microsoft vision. So let's talk a little bit about Power Platform updates. So there were a set of products released in this platform, and probably some of the most exciting things are Power Pages, which is a platform for creating business websites with like advanced security, with a lot of flexibility. Like, for example, you can generate your business website, you can modify particular pages using development tools like Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code. You can use Online Designer, or you can like start creating your website from the template hub. So that's a pretty amazing addition to Power Platform, and I think it may be very attractive for business users. Another pretty interesting tool that was released in Power Platform is called Expression Design. Expression Design is a tool that can convert your designs, for example, created in Figma or PDFs or in handwritten sketches, into a real application. So it has set of settings that allows you to customize the outputs, and you can create like production-ready applications just from handwritten sketches. That sounds really amazing, and of course this is powered by AI. So there was a lot of conversations on this build event about AI. Let's move on and talk a little bit about Azure. So what was released in Azure on Microsoft Build. So there were, of course, a lot of like interesting announcements in Azure, but what I think maybe the most attractive for us as developers is a new container-based platform for creating microservice solutions. So this technology is called Azure Container Apps. I know that Microsoft is not very good at naming, so we have like Azure Container Instances and Azure App Services. So we have a lot of similar things actually, but I think Azure Container Apps is really interesting, and it's worth to try to investigate whether it is a good choice for your project or not before you start, for example, launching a Kubernetes cluster. So what's the difference between container apps and a Kubernetes cluster? Actually, container apps hides all the complexity of Kubernetes. So you don't need a huge DevOps team that will manage your Kubernetes. So you can just consume the most interesting, the most attractive functionality of Kubernetes. For example, you can use autoscaling. So, and it is not only HTTP-based autoscaling. Azure Container Apps can also be autoscaled by events. So Container Apps used Kubernetes event-driven triggers that can scale your applications based on, for example, only on messages that are in your queue, and they can scale your application even from 0 containers to any amount of containers. that can handle the volume of the data in your queue. And then your application will be able to scale down to 0 containers. So you can have significant money savings here. Of course, you have other Kubernetes features like HTTP ingress, egress, service discovery. You can run like multiple versions of your application. And what is also very interesting, you can use Dapper. So Container Apps supports automatically Dapper. So you can create really interesting application workloads. For example, you can use actor-based model or like any other Dapper functionality. And all these things like provided out of the box by the Azure, which is good. So for example, on my current project, we are using Kubernetes cluster, and we have a huge team to manage this cluster, and it is like really expensive. So here you do not need such kind of team. You can just consume the most powerful features of Kubernetes. I think this is really amazing. What else? What else seems to me very exciting news that happened during the build? Microsoft actually announced a new hardware device, which is called currently Project Volterra. There was a very nice video about this device, like it was in a Surface style with a lot of nice pictures and so on. So like very attractive. You can find this on YouTube. So what is this? What is the Project Volterra? It is actually ARM-based device that is powered by Snapdragon. And of course, this is a kind of Microsoft offer of Mac Mini, but the difference is that it is ARM-based. And what is really good for us, Microsoft promised to support all developers' workload on this Project Volterra device. So you will be able to run powerful Visual Studio Code, .NET, and do all your day-to-day development activities on this small but powerful device. And also they promised pretty affordable pricing. So let's see how it will go, how this device will be launched. The last topics that I would like to talk about and that were shared during the build event are related to .NET, and the most valuable .NET update was of course related to MAUI platform, which is .NET multi-platform application UI. So we are going to talk about MAUI like shortly. Denise, who is on the call, will do deep dive into that. So MAUI is whatever it is. So it is a framework for building multi-platform applications that can run natively on iOS, Android, and Mac using C#, XAML, and so on. And the last .NET update that I would like to share with you is related to .NET WASI session that was conducted by Steve Sanderson. Who doesn't know who is Steve Sanderson, so Steve actually is a very nice guy who is an author of Blazor framework. I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it was pretty same situation when he shared Blazor framework as a very experimental project. It wasn't a Microsoft product. He just shared a capability to run .NET in a browser through the WebAssembly technology. It was like really amazing, but nobody believed that they'll be able to create a product from this. But nowadays we can use Blazor, and it is fully supported by Microsoft. And during this build conference, during this build event, Sanderson actually conducted this very nice session. So what was it about, and what we can learn from this session? Actually, if you don't know, so Blazor is not a like full conversion of your .NET application into WebAssembly. So in Blazor, we have only .NET runtime converted into WebAssembly, but then this runtime just runs usual .NET binaries inside the browser. So Blazor is closely coupled to browser environment. So here, if we are talking about WASI, this is kind of different thing. So WebAssembly is a binary format, and in theory, it shouldn't be coupled to browser only. In theory, if we provide like set of system interfaces, then we will be able to run a WebAssembly in any WASI compatible environment. So WASI standard is now under development, and in theory, if it became if at some point it becomes popular, then everyone will start consuming WASI and will treat WASI as a new universal application binary interface. So during the session, Steve Sanderson showed very nice demo where he just he made a full conversion of .NET binaries and .NET runtime into a WASI compatible binary file. And then he showed how this binary, how this .NET compiled into WASI can be run in different environments. And he showed very nice, very awesome thing when he compiled .NET, ASP.NET Core application with server-side rendering into WASI, and then added this binary into, so he launched this WASI binary in the browser as a static resource, and then this ASP.NET Core application with server-side rendering just worked perfectly right inside the browser. So this is really amazing session. I highly recommend to watch and see where the future may go. I'm not sure that it will go, but we will see. So yeah, that's it actually from my side. That's all the updates that I would like to share that happened during the build conference. So as I mentioned, it wasn't really amazing as it was like previous years, but let's see how Microsoft transforms their conferences. Yeah, I'm going to pass the word to another speaker.
Yeah, cool. It will be me. I'll start sharing my screen, guys. Alexei, let me know when you'll see it.
Yeah, I can see.
Cool. All right. So, hi guys. So in my presentation, I want to show you the latest news in the .NET toolset world, which were released last 6 months. Of course, it will be not full set of features and improvement, just a few of them, which is kind of interesting from my side. All right, and we will take a look at Visual Studio features and improvements, and also I will show you some interesting tools and utilities which is supposed to increase your productivity. And so we'll start from goal to definition improvement. Now it supports first link anything that is amazing, because now you can just click control and click here some class or method, and you'll be navigating to the source code, even if this class or method is not in your assembly, and it is really amazing. And it will be not just metadata, it will be real code. And it's really cool because I even dreamed about it before, and now here it is. Well, next, search code faster. What is it? So it is about plain text search in the Visual Studio, which is by default available by Control-Shift-F buttons. And now by default, it uses cache internally. What's the benefit? And benefit it is performance. Now it performs much faster. And the demonstration below, you can see that the right image, it is a current implementation, that the right image, sorry, not right image, new implementation, the right image works much faster than the previous one. About 10 times, as I remember. Also pretty cool improvement. Next one, enumerable debugger visualizer. It is completely new feature in the Visual Studio. And during debugging, you'll be able to see your collection, especially a big collection, the new window. It's very convenient when you have to analyze some items in this collection. You can do some stuff around sorting of them, removing unnecessary columns and so on, and even, as you can see in the demonstration, export this collection into Excel spreadsheet. Also, I suppose it will be very useful during investigation and debugging. All right, next, it is also a completely new feature. It is integrated Microsoft Edge development tool directly into Visual Studio. So it is completely same toolset, which is available in the browser, but now it is integrated directly into the Visual Studio. You can do a lot of stuff, I suppose all stuff, which you can do with real dev tools, edit Markdown, edit style sheets, and so on and so on. I suppose it will be useful for people who is working with it. And the last feature, but it is my favorite, it is new way to search your code. Unfortunately, it is not realized. It will be published in this Visual Studio 70.3, but it looks amazing. It looks very similar to a sharper functionality or rider functionality, but now it is native for Visual Studio, and it is amazing. Moving next. Now I want to show you some interesting CLI tool for .NET, and the first one, it is a .NET Stack. What is it? So it is a CLI tool to show you all managed stack for your application. So you can just install it globally, right, and run. To run it, you just need to call .NET Stack report and as argument pass identifier or name of your running application. And as a result, you can see the full stack of your application for every thread in your application. It doesn't do some deep analysis, but just show you briefly the top stack of your application. But in some cases, it will be really useful to understand what's happening and make some real and correct decision what needs to be done, or do we need to fix something, or everything is going fine. Suppose it will be useful for you guys. And next one, .NET Releaser. It is also CLI tool. What is it about? So actually, it's just a wrapper around .NET CLI commands like a .NET build, test, pack, publish, and so on. But it has a bit more rich and comfortable tool set around it. Below, I will show you how to work with it. So to install it, also you can type a command here, .NET to install globally, and to run it, you just need to run .NET Releaser now, and it will generate you. Of course, you should run this command in the root folder with your solution, and will generate you some TOML file with initial configuration. And this configuration can be updated with according documentation word with this tool, and actually configure everything for every step. So what's the benefit of it? It can be run locally to test that it is working fine, and also it can be easily integrated into GitHub pipeline and GitLab pipeline. Moving next. So it is GUI utility. It is .purple. Developers call it like a visual.NET CLI tool, and actually this definition absolutely correctly reflects what it is. We can briefly, I can briefly demonstrate you this tool because I have it installed. All right, so what is it about? This tool, actually it can run .NET CLI command under the hood, but it has just nice interface around the .NET CLI. And you can do a lot of stuff that you can do with CLI, but just with a graphical utility. Especially it will be useful for guys who is working with .NET on some Linux distribution, because this tool is cross-platform. So let's just quickly go through the functionality. And this tab, you can manage your project. You can add any project, any solution to this tool, and manage all necessary settings for your project. Add necessary I don't know, commands, arguments, set up, publish, and so on and so on. Next, templates. You can manage templates, which is installed in your laptop and your computer. You can uninstall existing or browse templates from the internet and install it easily directly from here. Next one, tools. I like this one actually, because you can easily manage .NET tools installed globally in your PC and update them, uninstall. And of course, you can search them in the in the internet and install it easily. All right. And there is it about the purple. And the last one in my list, it is DevToys. Also like this tool. So what is it about? It is kind of toolbox. This tool contains a lot of utilities which is supposed to help you with your development. Also, I can show you how it looks in the real life. DevToys phase 1. So usually when you need to convert something or generate something and so on, you will go to the Google and try to find some convenient or necessary tools for your operation. With this tool, you don't need it because it contains a lot of utilities which is help you to with your actual work. It can generate something for you, for example, hash. You can format text. You can convert JSON to YAML or vice versa. You can format JSON. You can decode HTML and so on and so on. Actually, like this one, SQL format can format SQL for you. And of course, it is not full list, a full possible list of utility. Developers, every time developers add some new functionality, but even now it contains almost that I need in my development. So yeah, and yeah, there is it about the tool that I want to present to you. Thank you guys and keep coding. All right, if any questions, no, I will pass to the next speaker. Thank you.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, let me know when you see my screen.
We can.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name is Dennis. Today I'm going to do some kind of overview about .NET MAUI release, what it is, what it's used for, and some technical details under the hood, how it's implemented, and some architectural decisions that have been made. But I was told that maybe our community not really familiar with Xamarin, and we need to give some kind of retrospective observation about how Xamarin was created, who was the guy who just came up with this idea, and to show this way how Xamarin became famous. And one day when Microsoft bought this company for pretty big amount of money, and they just did a lot of work to release this .NET MAUI tool as a result. Yeah, let's start from observation, some kind of situation on the market at the beginning of 2000, maybe 1 and 2. The situation was the next. There were a lot of projects developed with C++, and guys, professional developers really loved this language and they wanted to develop everything using this language. But it's been realized that actually there are huge demand on rich UI applications, and C++ is not really good. It is too complex for such kind of applications. That's why the next generation languages and platforms were invented. It is Java and .NET developed by Microsoft. And at that time, the situation was the next. Java was free, but it was private source. The source code was not available for the community, and you know that Microsoft also didn't share any code about .NET. It was even just some kind of political decision to run the .NET only on Windows, and Windows was dominating PC market at that time. And there was some guy, the name is Miguel de Icaza. At that time, he just was really wondering about the idea, what if we will create some open source, publicly available tool which will help all the developers in the world to develop UI applications and not to be linked to any third-party vendor, especially the main idea that it should be open source project. Everybody should be able to maybe to modify, to play with it, to read the source code and other things. And they just had to make the decision which platform to choose. Java was open source community of Java was really weak at that time because they already had this free Java and nobody was really worrying that it is private source. It was free, multi-platform. Everybody was really satisfied. From the other side, Microsoft just did really great job to standardize their platform. They just published a lot of well-documented standards about how the .NET platform should work and other things. And it was some kind of crucial point, I would say, for the guys in the community, which platform to choose. And they just decided to migrate .NET and C# on other platform, on Unix platform, and introduce this. They introduced this Mono project, which was developed by open source community. And this project was growing really fast. And even just interesting point here, one day when the project became really famous and a lot of people started talking about this and paying attention to this, they were able somehow to negotiate that Microsoft shared with them their internal automation tests. They just been used to discover and reveal a lot of issues that Mono platform had at that time. Miguel said that they just help us tremendously because we were even not aware about such kind of defects exist in our platform. And everything went well for a while, but in the middle of 2000s, they were developing Genome. It's some kind of UI tool that help developers to develop UI applications, but this is when politics just started to put in some pressure on the community because it was some kind of Microsoft shadow behind this idea, even if it was developed from scratch and publicly available in open source. Guys on Unix platforms didn't want to use anything that was somehow linked to Microsoft. And Miguel said that it was really sad that politics just started pushing all the initiatives and other things. That he was a little bit tired because of this. And maybe this project maybe was closed at that time, but one interesting thing happened in 2005. One small company, only several developers in it. It was a Unity company. They just decided to develop some kind of cross-platform 3D game engine. And as a staple platform for their 3D engine, they just decided to choose Mono platform. And that's how actually C# language and Mono platform just became part of Unity engine. And everything went well for a while, but in 2007, as you may know, first iPhone was released on the market, and it was some kind of breakthrough because people just realized that we can develop really full-featured applications for mobile devices, and this market was growing extremely fast. And as an example, in 2007, when iPhone was released, Unity company just grown up to 10 times during only 1 year. And it's really inspired Miguel. He just got the idea, hey guys, it seems on mobile, nobody cares about these politics and Microsoft things. They want to have some really good tool. And I see that Unity growing fast. And that's why he decided to create some kind of private company. They just decided to create new product to introduce Mono and C#, to introduce this ability to develop some kind of native mobile applications, but with .NET. And it was some kind of brand new idea at the time because not only C# and .NET was going to multi-platform, was going to mobile devices. But the initial idea that it was allowing them to share the code between Android applications and iOS applications. At that time, you see on this slide, at that time, they just introduced some tool that allowed you not to write some code twice and gave you the possibility to reuse. it seems the code had been written, let's say services, repositories, controllers, all of this business logic could be shared between different platforms. It was a really amazing idea because at that time, mobile developers had to develop two different versions of applications. And the market was really satisfied with this decision. But after that, when they just covered this shared code, they just came up with an idea. What if we still have a lot of code which is located in platform-specific modules and mostly dedicated to work with UI layer? And what if we will introduce some kind of cross-platform UI framework which will allow us to cover this piece of code too? And you see, it just gives you the possibility to increase code share between the platforms even more. That's why they just decided to develop this Xamarin Forms UI cross-platform framework. But I would say just initially it was not, they were not keeping it in mind when they were developing Xamarin. The initial idea was to introduce .NET platform and give you the possibility to develop native applications with .NET. It was initial idea, but after that they just, we need to improve somehow, and this is how Xamarin Forms was created. And if you just want to understand what's so special about .NET MAUI, you definitely need to observe Xamarin Forms tool to understand what benefits and disadvantages it had, and I'm going to cover this. As you can see, for example, one of the benefits that you just had some possibility, and you still have, to write your UI using XAML. XML-based XAML layout. It's just some kind of declarative UI. You see, they introduced a lot of concepts here. As an example, they just developed the collection of cross-platform UI controls. They also introduced some kind of cross-platform navigation service just to navigate between the pages. Previously, you just had to develop it twice, and approaches were absolutely different on iOS and Android platforms. They also introduced MVVM pattern with data bindings. It's just some kind of good approach to all of these MVX patterns that that now is well known and used almost in all the projects. But 10 years ago, sorry, it was not so obvious. It was some kind of new wave, I would say. Also, they introduced the concept of styles. You can just change the style, the themes in your applications. It was also really good. And as a result, in the end, you just have a native look and experience, because all the cross-platform UI controls were translated into platform native controls, and it was given some kind of native look and experience. Of course, some kind of disadvantages been revealed after years, but at that time it was really something really good. And in addition to that, I can mention that a lot of third-party vendors started to develop their packages, UI packages, to help the developers to introduce some kind of rich UI controls with high interactivity and other things, as you see here on the slide. For example, some kind of progress indicators, charts and graphs, all of these things being developed by third-party vendors. What was the concept, how it was working? As you can see here, just some kind of high-level architecture about how Xamarin Forms were developed. You just at the top, you just have some kind of cross-platform control, and they introduce some kind of custom renders idea when this some kind of class in the middle was some kind of mediator which was translating, or maybe bridge, which was translating all the properties and maybe events, other things between cross-platform and native control. The idea was pretty nice, because in the end you have true native UI on the screen, and the idea was really good. But also there were some architectural decisions that maybe were wrong. It wasn't clear at the time because they just decided to use identify property change pattern for communication between cross-platform and native controls. And as a result, you see here in the code, you just had to override some specific method on element property change, and you just had to detect which property actually was changed, and you just have to go through the if else comparing operations just to understand which property on native control should be updated. And in the end, I can say that it just created huge performance issue because let's imagine you just have 50 controls on the screen. Each of them have maybe about 20, 30 properties, which were triggering during the rendering process. And as a result, you just had a lot of comparing strings, comparing operations when you were rendering the screen. And performance, especially on Android devices, was not really perfect. And they just realized this, and here you can see the list of the problems, main problems that have been revealed with Xamarin Forms after the years of usage. For example, one of the problems that you could not share the resources, images, maybe fonts, audio, video files had to be duplicated, and you just had to duplicate it for each platform. Each platform had its own approach how to work with the resources. And if you have pretty big project, it becomes a problem for you. Also, the second one, there also was some kind of architectural mistake. They really highly coupled Xamarin Forms controls with native controls using Xamarin Forms classes. It was a mistake because you could not break this coupling. It was really strong coupling, and they were stuck a little bit to introduce new ideas, and I will show you how it's been solved in .NET MAUI. Also, I already mentioned about on property change. It was a bad idea, had a lot of performance issues, and also maybe not the final one, but one extra issue that they created. They introduced some kind of dependency service to register all of this. You just had the possibility to override some kind of behavior, but for this you had to register this custom service for any UI element you want to override behavior with. And it was implemented with this reflection. As a result, startup of the application was tremendously slow. You can imagine that you're starting the app, you have several assemblies linked to your project, and dependency service was searching in these assemblies for the classes with specific attributes on it at the application startup. If you have big project, it could take, I don't know, 7 seconds to start the app. It was really unacceptable at the time because startup of the application is crucially important. Yeah. And as an extra point, that it was partial hot reload was implemented only in the latest versions. For years, we didn't have a chance to have some kind of hot reload, and it's really important for mobile development, especially if you just touch something. The compilation process and deployment to the device can take 5, 7, 8 minutes. If you just did some small tweak, you want to see the results immediately, and it was really slow. Was slowing down the development process. Okay, after that, when Microsoft bought Xamarin, and they just were receiving a lot of feedback that Xamarin Forms is not good, and a lot of issues, they were just gathering the feedback from the community, and in the end, they just decided to do some kind of homework with Xamarin Forms to fix all the issues and to improve this cross-platform framework to put it on the next level. As you can see here, they just put some goals, some major goals for .NET MAUI to cover. And as you can see here, for example, performance issue was one of the major points for them to cover. They just considered, hey, we need to start the application less than 1 second. And also, we want to have responsive UI rendering and animations, transitions. We want to reduce view nesting because previously in Xamarin Forms, when you put some controls into controls, the native hierarchy of your controls could be so heavy that it was some just causing the performance issues. And also, as an extra point, customizing the controls once you need to get some extra style, extra behavior on native side. It was some kind of headache. You just had to write a lot of code just to get access to native controls. They also decided to improve this part to make it much easier for the developers to adjust the things almost on the fly, to did not creating a lot of unnecessary code. Here you can see some kind of high-level architecture overview, what's being replaced in the Xamarin Forms. As you see in all the approach, they just had this really strong coupling between renderer and Xamarin Forms control, but now in new approach, they decided to extract the contracts, some kind of interfaces, and you see they replaced this name button renderer with button handler. Now it is called handlers. New idea, new architectural idea. That's why they decided to get rid of this old name of renderers and introduce new idea. And as you can see, our button handler is referencing only iButton interface, and it's some kind of contract. You don't have to reference the class to do all the job which is needed, and it gives you really a big amount of opportunities. You see here, you can implement this interface with absolutely different UI controls. You don't have to be Xamarin Forms anymore. You can just create some kind of MAUI button. It can be, as in the end, I'll show you one interesting project that they created, and because this approach been updated, it became possible to implement some kind of Flutter. Maybe you have heard about Flutter frameworks that appeared recently and started growing now exponentially. But then the initial idea there that they say, hey, we're not going to use some kind of native controls, but we're going to draw everything on the canvas, and we will pretend that we will put some style on it, and it will be looking like native controls, but it will be absolutely drawn on the canvas. And that just idea, because drawing operations are really fast on the device. Maybe they're using some kind of OpenGL APIs that allowed them to get some performance advantages because of this. And I can say, yeah, here also you can see that, for example, with new architecture approach, you also have a partial class on handler side, and you can have some common logic which is shared between the handlers, and you have some kind of platform-specific handler implementations when you can focus on platform-specific code, attributes, properties, and other things. In shared code, you can do the common thing. Previously, it was not possible. These two approach, it was not possible to share the code between the platforms, even on UI layer. Once you go to native, this is it. You just have to recreate, you just have to do the things again. But you see here in the handler, they really focused on some kind of multi-platform approach. And now it allows you to release some kind of NuGet packages, which will be multi-platform out from the box. Because previously you just had, it was not really handy to do it. But now they've done a lot of work and make it possible. Yeah. Here you see how it's just working with .NET MAUI. You have some kind of cross-platform button, which is implemented as .NET MAUI button. And it also implements the interface, which on the platform through the button handler can be converted into native. I can say that on the from the basic point of view, it's pretty the same idea that was implemented with Xamarin Forms, but with some small improvements that, as I said, they just did some homework, fixed all of these small issues that were causing the problems for the developers and the projects. For example, here you can see that they decided to get rid of this iProperty changed pattern and replaced it with some kind of dictionary with a key and action value on it. And as a result, if just some property on cross-platform control changed, it just goes to this dictionary and calling using the key. It's calling just direct delegate once something needs to be updated on platform-specific side, it does not search for the property anymore. And one of the Xamarin guys, one of their, I would say, famous developers, said that this approach allowed them to increase rendering process up to 4 times. You see, they just were able to increase the performance up to 4 times because they just only decided to get rid of this compare and strings operation and go directly using the dictionaries. It was really, really good work. As a next point, they decided to introduce some kind of single project concept. What does it mean? Now it means that you don't have to duplicate the resources between your platforms. You can put it into one solution, and all of these fonts, images, audio files, video files will be automatically shared between the platforms. It just really was a headache for the developers once you have maybe 100 icons with different resolutions and different approaches on Android and iOS. You just have to register fonts here and fonts there and just resources here and here. And once you just had to do some update, it was not really enjoyable piece of work. But now they just decided fix this one, and you can put everything into one place and it will be automatically translated and shared. And also, as you can see, they just also did really great work about how to write platform-specific code. You have special folders, Android, iOS, Windows, which is dedicated to the platform. And also, in addition to that, you can give the name for your class, given some suffix in the end, Android, iOS, and it's only if you have this in your class, it automatically, Visual Studio automatically understand which API should be available for you. Because one of the really strongest points of Xamarin is that it gives you some kind of seamless access, almost seamless access to native APIs, which is available on platforms. For example, in other frameworks, you just had to do some tricks to get access to native API, but this you just using the .NET classes. You can search the documentation on for Android, for iOS. You see the class name, you copy paste this class name, platform-specific class name, let's say, and you just copy paste it into your .NET project, and Visual Studio automatically understands what it is, and you can just get access to all the functions. Okay, just to sum up, what .NET MAUI is. It's cross-platform native UI framework, which was considered somehow evolution of Xamarin Forms. It's, let's say, just Xamarin Forms 2.0, when a lot of architectural mistakes and other things were solved, and they say that now it should be working much more better than it was before, because once the Xamarin company started their way, I can say the tools were not really perfect. They developed their own ADI and IDE, and it was really buggy, and Xamarin Forms also had a lot of issues, and it took them maybe 5 years to fix all the issues in this cross-platform framework. But now they say, hey, we've done all of this work, and now this tool really high quality and production ready. You can use this tool for your products on real products. Yeah, in addition to that, one important thing now with .NET MAUI, it should be mentioned that now they've done really great job, because previously, before .NET MAUI was released, Xamarin was using still Mono platform as a staple tool, as a staple platform for mobile projects. It was not Microsoft.NET, but now they did really great job and integrated Xamarin into .NET, and now it is one universe. It is still some kind of mono runtime is used in some places, but I can say that in majority they migrated and integrated Xamarin into .NET. It's now one universe, and as you see here, it's even just they also implemented some cool thing that allows you to run your Blazor application, Blazor controls inside mobile application. and it just almost integration, almost seamless. It's working really good. And in addition to that, as I already said, in addition to that, .NET 6 gives you a possibility to reload the domain on the fly. And it really gives great opportunity for .NET mobile applications to have this hot reload feature, which was really important for mobile developers. If you tweak something in the code or maybe on your UI pages, you want to see the result immediately. If you press Command S, you just want to see the result, because previously it took you years just to compile the project and see the result. Okay, in addition to that, I want to mention a couple of interesting projects that were developed for .NET MAUI. The first one is a Comet project. It was developed by, I think, Tom Clancy. This is a guy who just maybe heard about Swift UI project. It's really declarative code behind UI framework, which became really famous, and I can say that also Flutter uses the same concept. Microsoft call it model view update. This is how you can just write some kind of code behind UI, and UI is a function of your model state. Every time when something updated in your model, your UI updated automatically, and you can rebuild your UI pages just based on some events, on some triggers that happen on your view model layer. And he just decided, I don't know, to steal this idea again. Just Microsoft does it all the time. He just copied these concepts and introduced this project, which allows you to use this MVU pattern and have this possibility to write your code behind with a state for view models and re-render the views based on of these events. In addition to that, I can say that now this project was moved under .NET namespace, and it's now part of .NET community and just publicly, officially, how to say, confirmed by Microsoft. They're gonna use this project. The next one is Microsoft MAUI graphic controls. And as I said, because they've done really great job, now it just gives you the possibility to introduce the controls we've been written on the canvas. And it's absolutely the same approach as Flutter use to render the UI controls. You see, they just also give you this possibility if you want to have some kind of Flutter style and you want to develop just using the ideas that have been introduced in Flutter. Now it is available on .NET too. You can just use all of these approaches. You can use these packages to render your controls, your UI controls on the canvas. It's pretty the same. Thank you very much. If you have the questions.
Yeah, Denis, we do have questions for you. The first question is, do you use MAUI in production already, or do you have plans to migrate to it in the nearest future? Yes, I can say that one of our project. No, if you ask me, I just currently am on the project with 10 plus mobile applications on the market, and the project is really huge, and you're not really flexible. You can just react on the things and new technologies that come in, but we have the plans to migrate some of our applications to .NET MAUI, but I can tell you that in EPAM, we already have a couple of projects, and my colleague already is working on one of them, and they just use MAUI already on their production project. And also I have some plans to migrate a couple of our applications to .NET MAUI. But if you ask me now on my current project, we do not use MAUI yet. But this is the idea anyway, just everybody is excited and they want to try. Because anyway, Xamarin Forms is deprecated now. They're going to support it for next 2 years maybe, and after that, you have to migrate to .NET MAUI, and it's better to do it as soon as possible. Just okay. Another question, could you clarify about MAUI and Linux? Because I know that Microsoft didn't ship MAUI implementation for Linux, and people are aware about it as well.
Yeah, now it is not available yet. You see, if you just go back, is it possible to go back? Yeah, you see, now they just only support 5 different platforms. And it's actually 4 because Blazor is just web part. Yeah. It's Linux is not supported. I didn't hear anything that they're going to migrate. I heard that they were asked to migrate to Linux, and even just I'm not sure that Flutter migrated to Linux. They also were saying about this opportunity. I just heard that there is some plans to migrate, but as I know, at the moment it's not available on Linux.
I heard they are going to rely on the community implementation here.
Yeah, seems so.
Well, user interfaces for Linux are like not very popular thing, I guess. Yeah, and we have like very large comment from Lauren. A lot of interesting things from him about Miguel, ECMA standards, CLR, Unity. Just comments worth to read. I'm not going to read it right now, but everyone can read. And one more comment, isn't MAUI commit abandoned? Not sure what does it mean.
No, it's not abandoned. Yeah, as I just told you, it's already under Microsoft .NET namespace. This project was included into official Microsoft repository. I don't know what will be the future for this. It's still some kind of proof of concept, but you can go to the GitHub and read their README page. As I know, just they really want to move this direction. They really talking about this, that you have to use this this approach, because I can say that now mobile industry moved to this direction already. As I said, Kotlin multi-platform, Swift UI, Flutter, all of them just using the same approach, and it's some kind of trend now. I don't know what will be the future. Of course, you can still use XAML files. It's pretty good. Maybe sometimes it is heavy if you just have pretty complex pages. It can be a problem, an issue for you. But anyway, it's only people who create the issues. You see, in just you can open the class and see the mess in it. The same about XAML and your controls. If you cannot structure the things, you will even no matter what you use, you will end up having a mess. But anyway, as I said, it is some kind of trend that they had to react, and they just introduced this this package. It's open source. If you want, you can just use it, contribute to it, and this is a good thing actually about open source. You can download, you can fork, you can do everything you want. You can instigate the code. It's really helps. I can say that because Xamarin Forms was open source and is still open source, I was able to detect a couple of issues in our projects just investigating the code. And even once or maybe 2 times, I just had to introduce some kind of hotfix. Unfortunately, we just had to fork and release our package, because once you just create a pull request, it can take pretty long time for you to merge something. But anyway, even if you see some issue, it's really good opportunity. You can tweak, you can compile your NuGet and just start using this.
Yeah, actually, Lauren, who put his nice and large comment, also put some criticism about XAML as well. So MAUI is cool, but using XML is a major pain. Clancy copied Swift UI, which is copied Flutter and React. Yeah.
Yes, it's true. And as I said, it's some kind of trend. We'll see. I tried Swift UI. It's amazing, to be honest. It's really good, well designed. Once you see this, you understand, yeah, it should be done like that.
Yeah, one more. So a few words about WinUI 3. Are MAUI frameworks somehow connected to it? Is MAUI framework somehow connected to it?
Yes, it is. if you just were looking into their previews and maybe before their global availability, they released about 13 previews of the MAUI. And I remember that till maybe preview number 8 or 10, WinUI 3 was some kind of, you see, they just introduced a single project concept. But anyway, just when it was in preview, WinUI still just was some kind of extra project in your solution. It was not just single one. Yeah, and it seems it's just using it under the hood.
All right. So while you're answering, one more just arrived. How does it compare to? So can you compare this MAUI with Avalonia? I know that Alexander is well aware about Avalonia because he's one of the contributors.
Yes, correct.
To be honest, I don't know a lot about Avalonia. I heard that it's some kind of JavaScript-based UI framework. No, correctly.
No. This
is kind of it is kind of new, modern XAML or XAML-like WPF-like framework to develop a UI for a desktop application. It is cross-platform, and actual utility, which is shown before, one from them utility was developed by Avalonia UI. It is how it's called, sorry, I forgot. The purple.
Dot purple.
Yeah, dot purple. Yeah, it's developed by Avalonia UI. So currently Avalonia just support few platforms. It is Windows platforms and the Linux platforms. It doesn't support officially, it doesn't support Android. Of course, it is possible to compile it with some tricky hack to run in Android, but it's not production ready. And the performance in the Android actually is not so good. Let's say they have
Android
some plans
is
to work.
a headache because just Marinforms was working really well. Pretty okay on iOS, but Android was really awful, and because it's some kind of issues with the platform itself.
And that's the reason why Avalonia is still under the 0.1 version and point something version, because they have plans to have the major 1 version when they have the full Android compatibility in with Android and iOS for Avalonia UI. But now officially it has a production support only for Windows and Linux.
Okay, so just to sum up, so Avalonia can be used on desktops, while the most powerful feature of MAUI is to support of the mobile platforms, right? Okay.
Yeah, they initially just was really, as I said, is some kind of child of Xamarin Forms. All of these ideas, initially was developed to support mobile, of course, first. And now they just try to extend, just try to go to Windows, to web with Blazor and macOS. I just heard even macOS was not, Xamarin Forms also were declaring that, hey, we support macOS, but was so many issues with this. It seems they also done some work. Also, I just heard that there are some also alternative. I'm just sorry, I forgot about the name for this project. It was also just competing.NET, MAUI, and Avalonia was the third one. Alternative, which also was developed, is .NET. My God.
Sorry, I remember only about GTK Sharp, but it is very old.
No, just some kind of alternative project which was also developed by open source community.
For what? For Android or for
Android, iOS, Windows. Just give me a sec.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, just forgot about it.
No worries. Okay, so looks like no more new questions. I think that means we can actually wrap up the session. All right, guys. Thanks everyone. Thanks our speakers for sharing all this great content. I hope. Okay, sorry. One more. Again, this is probably a comment from Lauren. Lots of nice comments from him. commit is great. Clancy was working on it alone for a long time, the same way Sanderson starts all his work alone, but the idea was always to adopt it if it is worked well. It has reached out the point to become a truly great commit. We'll have to have some support from Mads and the compiler guys. This is collaboration makes SwiftUI truly great. Okay, yeah, valuable comment. And one more new. Could you name, just a moment, could you name some Microsoft-made products based on Xamarin or MAUI?
Of course I can't, because it's not, let's say, so popular with Microsoft, because you see, it's some kind of, I also just, I'm Xamarin head in the EPAM Mobile Competency Center, and once we just participated in pre-sales, have two, let's say, two major points to clarify with the client. And one of them is just, they call it some kind of innovative product. If our client is going to develop some kind of innovative product, it means that they're going to compete on the market. They're going to be released in App Store and Google Play, and they want to hit some top places on the market. That's why they just need to go with native. iOS and Android native development is extremely necessary. But there is some other part of the projects that, let's say, for some kind of, if you don't want to compete, if you want to let your business to work, let's say some warehouse application that allows you to maintain all of the things in your warehouse and other things, you're not going to release this application. And this really great floor for cross-platform frameworks and approaches. And it seems Microsoft, maybe if they release something publicly, they really want to compete on the market. That's why they're using some kind of native implementations. Maybe for their internal purposes, they're using MAUI and Xamarin previously, but I'm not aware about some public products.
Well, you could probably share some EPAM projects created using Xamarin, because we have only internal audience. Don't think it is.
Yeah, we have a bunch of projects created with Xamarin. For example, one of the recent projects that we finished recently was for Keurig company. It's a really huge company in the United States, and we were developing for them some mobile applications with integration with coffee machines. They just decided to hit this market and introduce the new approach that you can manage your coffee machine from your mobile devices. And yeah, it was really interesting IoT project when you just communicate with your coffee machines using mobile device, for example.
Yeah, one more comment from Lauren. Microsoft is not using Xamarin, they use Electron and provide some examples of VS Code, Office, Teams, actually. That's true, but this is not applicable. Yeah, that's right.
MAUI for desktop was released recently. Just only it's time now, because Avalonia exists already for a pretty long time, and .NET MAUI just released. If you just started some project 5 years ago, it's really a big issue for you to rewrite it in some new platform or framework.
Yeah,
you will continue to do it like this anyway.
Okay, yeah. No more questions. I hope this time we'll be able to finish.
Yeah, I can say, for example, that Microsoft created some special automated tool which allows you to migrate your Xamarin Forms project to .NET MAUI project. It's also publicly available. I also were thinking how our customers who are using Xamarin Forms will migrate to .NET MAUI, and they created some special automation tool. You just run it, and your project converted into .NET MAUI.
Okay. All right. So I think that's it, for today. No more new questions. one more time, thanks everyone for attending the session. I hope it was useful for you. Please provide your feedback through the feedback form that you will receive. It's very valuable for us. This is, like, as I mentioned, the first event that we conducted this year, and we will try to hear you. We will try to improve. Thanks, everyone. I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.